Off-season content is good and fun. I enjoy it. I love doing it. I bring you a college football show 5 days a week all year round. Now that we're in the season, the amount of relief I feel to be able to talk about actual games every week is unbelievably good. I don't want to describe it, or I might get into content that isn't G-rated, and that's not how we roll here at the Locked On Network. So let's talk about Brian Kelly on that note first, because nobody in college football could use a win more than him. Brian Kelly needs to make the playoff, not or he's fired, or else he goes into next season and he's on the hottest of hot seats. The same could be said for Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, except Brian Kelly's going into year 4. Kalen DeBoer is going into year 2. So at the very least, there could be a little bit more grace given. I'm not saying there's an eternal amount. I'm just saying there is more when he's been there for twice as long once this season comes to a close. So Brian Kelly goes to Clemson this week. I don't think he's winning that football game. He has struggled in these non-conference early season showdowns. I don't think that gets right this year, even though I like LSU. Don't write off the Tigers when they lose in Death Valley this weekend. Clemson's just a really good football team. And I think Clemson's schedule is fairly tough. This is a game Clemson could easily lose. They should win because they are at home. When it's a neutral site, I might lean LSU. But you have got veteran coaches, you've got veteran quarterbacks, you've got really talented rosters that on paper are one of the 5 best national title odds teams in the country this year, and understandably so. I'll say it right now, since week 1's officially starting on Thursday, week 0's gotten underway. Clemson is my national championship pick. I went back and forth. I think it's going to be Clemson and Penn State in the national championship game. I will take Clemson to win it all. I like the Tigers a lot. They have got nasty guys on the defensive front. I think that's the best team in the ACC. I think that's one of the best teams in all of college football. The best team doesn't always necessarily win, although we do allow for some wiggle room now that we have a 12-team playoff. But Brian Kelly this year has got to get in the playoff. Does 9-3 get you in? We'll see. It didn't last year. Doesn't mean it won't this year. But last year, Brian Kelly went 8-4. Can't do that. We know you can't do that. And I would rather discuss the merits of 11-1 against 12-0 to get into the playoff, but that's a bygone era of college football now. Brian Kelly's got to win 10 games, but I don't think he's going to win this weekend. If he does, bully for him. That's a big, big time moment where he reminds LSU fans why they gave him a big contract and a lot of money when he came over from Notre Dame. But nobody needs a win more than him. Because if you lose that game, you can suddenly lose one game the rest of the season. Go look at their schedule. It's far from a cakewalk. It's going to be fun. It's going to be really, really fun. Coach number 2, I almost landed just 3 coaches that need a win. There are actually 4. Coach number 2 is Mario Cristobal, who I think is in the exact same position as Brian Kelly. Thin margin, going into year 4. I think his team is good. I wouldn't fire him if he misses the playoff after this year. Plenty of people would. And he's got a game week 1 that's much easier to win than Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly has to go to Clemson with a veteran quarterback, albeit. But Mario Cristobal is at home. He's got a new defensive staff, and CJ Carr has not started a game of college football in his career. He's barely played college football in his career, and that's who's starting for the Irish. That's a game Mario Cristobal should win. I'm not picking him to win the game, but does he need that win? Yeah, a pretty hefty amount, because when you're in the ACC, you're operating on an even thinner margin. We know 9-3 at ACC and Big 12. That's not going to get a sniff in the college football playoff. 10-2 will. 10-2 didn't get Miami in last year. They didn't have the best wins necessarily, but that's why this game is so important. This game could give Mario Cristobal and the Hurricanes wiggle room, and also prove that they're one of the 10 best teams coming into the season in college football, because Notre Dame is really good. We know Notre Dame is going to be, I know that Notre Dame is really good. Maybe you all don't know, but I think Notre Dame is a really, really good team. And I think CJ Carr can be good enough for them at quarterback. They didn't get a ton out of quarterback last year. Their offensive line, their run game, their defense is going to be elite across the board. Marcus Freeman, his game management is as good as any coach in the country. He did the best coaching job I have seen in the college football playoff last year. I think Notre Dame is winning this weekend, but Mario Cristobal needs it more. So between Brian Kelly and Mario Cristobal, am I going to be wrong and one of those guys wins? Maybe. But if those guys go 0 for 2, the discussion's going to be fun. And I, of course, will be right back here on this very feed talking about it. 2 other names that are going to fly under your radar a little bit. Let me start with Brent Pry. This is way under your radar. Neutral site game. Why? I don't know. At least it's in the United States. Virginia Tech plays South Carolina. Virginia Tech was one of the more disappointing teams I talked about on the show last year. I picked them to win 10 games. They won 6. Now, Kyron Drones got injured, and over the second half of the year, it was more difficult. But when he was there, they were not winning the games they should have been. It didn't look as consistently good as it should have. They start the year with 2 SEC teams. They play South Carolina, preseason number 13, and Vanderbilt. Brent Pry, also going into year 4, he needs a jolt. This would be a jolt victory for Brent Pry and the Hokies. If he gets that win, he buys himself immense amounts of credibility because South Carolina is a bona fide playoff contender. I like them coming into this year. Gamecocks are favored by 8. I think South Carolina wins the game. But again, if Brent Pry is able to pull that off, that win would mean a lot to him. That's a little bit more of, hey, this would be really nice and could do a lot for you. A win does more for Brent Pry than a loss crushes him, but a win would do a lot. Who a loss crushes is Hugh Freeze. The Auburn Tigers are a 2-point favorite against the Baylor Bears, who a lot of people, not a lot, but some people like to win the Big 12 this year. I'm not one of those people. I think Baylor's solid, but I think they're a 7-8 win team this year. I think Sawyer Robertson's good. I think Dave Aranda's fine. This game is in Waco. And Hugh Freeze, you talk about hot seat in college football. Hugh Freeze has one of the hottest seats in all of college football. If you go lose to a Big 12 team a year after losing to an ACC Cal Bears team at home, that fan base might turn really quickly. We'll talk more about that game as the week goes on. But those are the 4 coaches who need a win the most this week. Brian Kelly, Mario Cristobal, Brent Pry, Hugh Freeze. LSU, Miami, Virginia Tech, Auburn. Pressure games in week 1 for the head coaches. I did not include these teams, these coaches, Ryan Day and Steve Sarkisian. They'd like to win. Every coach would like to win. Those 2 coaches don't need a win the way the other ones do. There isn't the same sort of pressure, especially for Ryan Day, coming off national championship. I considered including Matt Rule at Nebraska. They go at Cincinnati. Could be a sneaky tough game against one of the teams that came into the Big 12 recently. Nebraska left the Big 12 a long time ago. Anyway, some people think Nebraska should still be in the Big 12. Me. But Nebraska going to Cincinnati, yeah, they got to win that game. They do. But is there the same level of pressure as the other coaches? I don't think so. And then Brent Key, Georgia Tech, should win at Colorado. That's another one where a loss definitely hurts, but a win would perhaps confirm the love that people like myself and Josh Pate have shown for Georgia Tech in the offseason. So it's not that those coaches don't really want to get wins or win wouldn't do a lot for the team, but the level of urgency I just don't think is quite there as it is for the other 4.